Hi everyone, I am currently in a hotel room, hence the weird setup that I have at the moment and the dodgy light. But I wanted to record a video all about my experience doing 75 soft. I have completed the challenge and I did it postpartum as well. So some of you may know that during my pregnancy, basically for the second half of my pregnancy, from like week 20-ish to basically week, I don't know, 36, 7, 8, I can't remember, I did 75 hard. So I did like 4 months of 75 hard. Then I stopped. I was in hospital for 2 weeks. I gave birth. I completed 75 hard, I should say. So when I say I stopped, I completed it. The next day I had to go into hospital and I was there, gave birth, and then I decided for my postpartum recovery I would do 75 soft, which is an unofficial easier version of 75 hard. So I thought after doing 75 hard it would be a nice way to kind of like get myself back into movement and good habits and routines. I will say that the 2 weeks after I completed 75 hard pre-baby and 7 weeks postpartum, so 7 weeks after, I just chilled. Obviously I was either severely pregnant, and also my dad passed away directly after I finished 75 hard. So it was a really weird time in my life. My dad passed away. I gave birth to my daughter 2 days after we buried him. It was bizarre. So I really just kind of like embraced all the food or did whatever it is that I wanted to do after I gave birth to my little girl. But 7 weeks postpartum, I felt ready to do a 75 soft. So I have some notes here that I'm going to go through to explain what 75 soft is, what kind of books did I read, what results did I get, all that sort of stuff. And I will go through everything as much as possible, like what diet did I do, and then kind of like any standout moments throughout the 2.5 months, which is what it works out as. Like I tend to just count 75 hard or 75 soft in weeks. So it works out about, I think it's 10.5 weeks ish, nearly 8 weeks. Anyways, or nearly 11 weeks. Is that right? Yeah, nearly 11 weeks. Okay, anyways, let's get into it. So I started 1st of July. I was 7 weeks postpartum and I ended on the 13th, or I should have ended on the 13th of September. I'll explain that later. I will caveat this and say I did 75 soft, but I didn't do it completely. Not in the way that I was super diligent with 75 hard. I finished a couple of days earlier, so I was meant to finish on the 13th of September. I finished on the 11th of September. I'll get through that, go over that. And I also forgot to do one of my activities on one of the days. So I'll explain all that as well, but I'm still counting it as doing 75 soft, considering I was so soon postpartum. I'm still happy with what I did, and I still had an experience doing 75 soft. But as you'll know, when I did 75 hard, there was a circumstance where I couldn't do the outdoor workout one day because I was on a ferry with extremely bad weather and the outdoor deck was cordoned off, so I literally couldn't do it. I counted that as a fail and I started again. I wasn't as strict on this, but I still did it pretty much like 99.9%. So I'll just say that now, I won't bury the lead. That's what happened with my 75 soft journey. Diet. Okay, so I wanted to do at minimum a paleo diet, at most a carnivore diet. Okay, so I started off strict carnivore. So when I say strict carnivore, it was only meat, single ingredient meat as well. I was very strict on the ingredients and made sure that all my meat were rashers, like bacon rashers, because it's very hard to get like just bacon rashers. But all the meat that I was eating was single ingredient. There was no glazing, no seasoning, no nothing. So it was just meat, eggs, salt and water. So that's all I was doing. I was doing no coffee, no tea, no seasonings, no sauces, no nothing. It was very strict carnivore. I did that for the first 6 weeks of 75 soft. So 6 out of the 10 and a bit weeks were strict carnivore. So that's one component of what 75 soft is the diet. So I'll talk about that more later. Another component is exercise. So when you do 75 hard, you have 2 workouts a day, and at least one has to be outdoors, and they have to be at least 3 hours between them to make sure that you're doing time management and everything. 75 soft is 1 exercise per day. It doesn't matter if it's indoor or outdoor. All the exercises are 45 minutes as well, but 1 exercise per day, and you have 1 rest day per week. Which I definitely took advantage of. The water aspect, so in 75 hard you have to drink a gallon of water. It is also a gallon of water in 75 soft, so that was fine for me. I don't mind that at all. So I equate that to 4 litres, so that's how much that I measure. There's a progress pic in 75 hard. In 75 soft, it's optional. You can do it or you don't have to do it. It's totally up to you. In books, so you're reading 10 pages per day in both hard and soft, but the difference is hard, it has to be a non-fiction book and it has to be a physical book. In soft, they stipulate that it doesn't have to be non-fiction. It can be whatever you want it to be, and it can also be audio, which I don't know how you count 10 pages on an audiobook, or it can be like a Kindle or an ebook. So I personally, when I was doing this, I was like, I'm not going down that route. I'm just going to go with my 10 physical pages of non-fiction per day, because I read anyway. I read I read fiction and I read non-fiction. So like, there'd be no challenge in me just reading 10 pages a day, because I'm going to do that anyway. And I was like, do you know what, I may as well use this time to dedicate to reading non-fiction books and seeing where that goes. So that's what I did. There were 2 circumstances where I had a book that I really wanted to read, which I'll go through, and I only had it as a downloadable file on my phone. So I did read 10 pages per day of an ebook. At the same time, to supplement that, and I would have preferred to have physical, I'll say this, at the same time, to supplement that, I also was listening to a non-fiction book as well. So again, that's a book that I would like to have had physically, but I just didn't have it and I still can't get it, and I'll talk about the books later on. So I will say that did happen, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna read an audio or read an ebook or listen to an audio. It's all I had and I wanted to read those books. So the next thing is, I personally added myself a task of doing Duolingo. So we have a house in Portugal. We're hoping to move to Portugal. We don't speak Portuguese, which is very important to do. So I wanted to do at least 10 minutes of Duolingo per day. I will say that I started off doing like a lot of Duolingo. The first 4 weeks actually, I got 2 sets of like 2-week free trial for like the max Duolingo, Duolingo Plus or whatever it's called, Super Duolingo. So I was just going hell for leather with the Duolingo. As time went on, some days I didn't do 10 minutes. I could have just done like a couple of the exercises and then that was it for whatever reason. But I was really determined to do every day some Duolingo and get back to my Portuguese journey, because it's not something that I did at all during my pregnancy or anything like that. So let's get into the books. So what books did I read? So I started off with a book that an old friend, when I say old friend, we are both Irish, but we met at a conference over in Orlando back in like 2016. Actually, I flew to Orlando the day that Donald Trump was announced the president of the United States, and I remember being in Dublin airport and all over the screens was like all the riots and stuff, and I was flying into Orlando and I was like, oh my god. And I was going by myself. It was my first long haul transatlantic flight ever, and I was going by myself, and I was like in the airport in Dublin looking at all these riots and stuff, and I was like, this is gonna be crazy. That's a total tangent. A woman I met there, absolutely lovely person. Herself and her wife are psychologists, and they had written a book, and again, this is going back 2016, years ago, and I never read the book, but my mother-in-law had the book because she did, so I picked it out as my first book. The book is called The Power of Small. It's a really good book if you're looking for processes or tools to help you with overwhelm and anxiety. There's a lot, it's a very, very loaded book, and they also do lots of workshops and everything. Honestly though, it gave me, I don't get anxiety. I do get a little bit of overwhelm that like can extend into panic. It made me feel a bit overwhelmed because there was just so many processes and tools. And I suppose because I was just like reading it diligently every single day, and I was like, oh my god, this is so much, it started making me a little bit panicky. So it was kind of had the counterintuitive effect on me. But I would recommend it if people do get anxious or they do get overwhelmed. You don't have to read it the way I did, and there's literally so much. There's so much information in there, and the two women, Aisling and Trish, they're both psychologists. So I would recommend this book, but it just had the counter effect on me. But I'm really happy that I read it, because it's been on my mind to read it for years and years and years, and I never did. And I just think it was a great opportunity for me to be able to read it. Okay, so that finished. The next book I read was the one that was an ebook on my phone, and that was actually Andy Frisella's book 75 Hard. So I hadn't read that pre-doing 75 Hard. I had listened to a lot of his podcasts. I'd watched a lot of other people that had done 75 Hard. I'd watched their videos to see their experience or their input and stuff like that. But I didn't have the book, and then just by chance someone sent the book randomly to my husband, so he sent it to me. So that was the book that I wanted to read, and it was on my phone. So I was reading that 10 pages a day, and also while I was doing my walk or doing whatever I was doing, I was listening to a book called Ultra Processed People, which is such a good book. I have since requested that book from my library. I listen to books on like my library app, so I can get like free books, but they don't always have the books that you're looking for or whatever, so it's kind of, you go to whatever's there. But it was a really, really good book, and I went in and I was like, do you have this in a physical form, because there's so much information in it, and I'd love to just be able to like read it. Sometimes I feel like things go over your head about if you're listening, because maybe you hear something, then your train of thought goes, and then all of a sudden you haven't been paying attention, and then I don't know, or sometimes they're spilling like facts or talking about studies that have happened, and it'd be great just to be able to read back over what it is that they had said. But I've been on a waiting list for this book. There's only 3 books in Ireland in all the libraries nationally, and there's huge waiting lists. Just like I asked for it in August, they put me down, and then I went back in the start of October, so 2 months later, and they said there was 32 people on the waiting list, and I was 12th or something. So I probably won't get that until next year. But I downloaded it again to listen to. I had to wait again, but I actually have it on my phone right now. So I'm back listening to Ultra Processed People, and I'm very excited to get the book into my own hands. Would recommend that. And I would recommend 75 Hard. It's a very easy read. If you're thinking of doing the program, or even if you have done the program, it's just nice to get Andy's insight into the different tasks and why he did them. Okay, so the next book I did was a book that everyone will have heard of. I actually had never read it before. I started it before and I just didn't like the vibe of it because of the way it was written and the design of it. I just find it's really clunky and my brain just can't comprehend it really. But it was there and I was like, you know what, I'll just use this time as an opportunity to read it. So it is The Secret. Anyone who has seen this book will know it's kind of like, there's just like little design things in it. I don't know, it's just weird. Like, I don't like the font. I don't like the way it's written. Sometimes the font is even hard to read. They have like this weird cursive in it and it's just a lot of quotes. And when I first tried to pick it up, I just couldn't I was like, I'm not just reading a book of quotes. But yeah, I read it, and it's not just a book of quotes. There is actual words and then it's just surrounded by quotes, but I still had those pet peeves for the design choice. But I'm really glad that I read it, and there were definitely, at the time when I was reading it, there was a couple of standout pieces in it that I can't remember right now, but I don't mind that. Like, of all the books that I read, so obviously 4 months of doing 75 Hard, and now after doing 75 Soft, I've read a lot of books this year, and none of them I can think of that like really stand out, or there's nothing that like, oh, I remember when I read this book and this they said this one specific thing. I don't remember any of that, but that's okay for me, because I feel like the information goes into my subconscious and it changes me even if I don't remember it. So I just think all of this has a compound effect, and I definitely feel like this year, despite losing my dad, having a baby, and doing all of these challenges and stuff like that, like outside of the challenges I've been really creative and succeeding in lots of different things despite everything that's been going on. And like health wise, I'm doing so much better than I have probably ever, and I'm just really, really happy with how my life is at the moment. And maybe the books have something to do with it. I wouldn't say they have anything negatively to contribute, but again, there's nothing that really stands out. Like I couldn't tell you, oh, I really loved when I read this specific thing in The Secret, but there's definitely times I was reading it and my thoughts were like, oh, that's interesting, oh yeah, that makes sense, X, Y, and Z, and then I might forget about it again, but that thought, I believe, changes my subconscious. So read The Secret, and then the last book I read is a book that honestly, it's been in my house for years, and I've had it on my bookshelf to read it because I love the author. You might find it's controversial, but for some reason I was like having resistance against reading it. I was like freaked out about reading it. I don't know why it was, but it came into my view again, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read this now in 75 soft. That's what I'm really enjoying about this challenge, whether 75 hard or 75 soft. It's giving me a reason and an excuse to read books that have been on my list to read for years. It's the exact same with 75 hard. I had the exact same experience for those 4 months of reading, but it just gave me an excuse to read all of these random books. And that book is Ask and It Is Given by Abraham Hicks. So Esther and Jerry Hicks. I love this. I will definitely be coming back to this. There are processes in the back of this book as well. I was actually, while I was reading this and considering doing 75 soft again, I was like, maybe instead of Duolingo or on top of Duolingo, I'll add doing one of these processes every single day as well. So that's something that I'm contemplating maybe for the new year, just like really, really honing in on the processes of this book. This book was super easy to read. I don't know why I had so much resistance against it, but I have no problem with the fact that I did. I'm just really, really happy that I did read it. And I don't know, I suppose like I went through, God, probably a couple of years of listening to a 15-minute snippet of Abraham Hicks on YouTube every single day. Like I just loved it, and there's loads of them and they're all like little cartoons, but I would just listen to them while I'm walking in the morning or whatever. And I especially loved when it'd be someone at a workshop and they were asking Abraham a question, so you could get into the questioners, the askers mindset, and then you could hear Abraham's answer. And I just love them. Whether you believe in Abraham Hicks or not, it doesn't matter. Like the content is really, really good. And I was like, how is that going to be in a book form? I don't know, but I loved it. I thought it was fabulous, and I will definitely be coming back to this book. This is like probably my favorite book of this year. So we'll definitely be keeping this at arm's length and coming back to it. And I think next year I am going to set myself a challenge of doing the processes, because some of them I can actually, and just to like completely counteract what I just said, I can definitely remember multiple of the processes that are mentioned in this book that I'm like, yeah, I can do that, I can do that, I could do it like right now. Because I still have a really strong memory of what they are. So that brought me to the end of 75 soft. So those are the books that I read. Okay, results wise, so what I did was, with the progress pick, I didn't do a daily pick, but what I did do was a weekly pick. But what I also did was, at the beginning of 75 soft I did measurements, and at the end of 75 soft I did measurements. And I believe I recorded those. So if I did, I will put the before and the after in this video. But I think the before is a very kind of long-winded video because I didn't know how to measure myself. But basically I recorded it because I wanted to make sure that I was, the second time that I was measuring myself, I was measuring myself from the same area. So anyway, now that I think about it, I may have actually recorded multiple little tidbits of my journey on 75 soft. So I don't know, maybe I'll just post this talking video, or maybe I'll go and see and then add some on at the end. But regardless, I did some measurements just on myself. It was with like a measuring tape that I'd gotten in the hospital after having my baby. They just gave me a measuring, like a little measuring tape. And as I said, I did weekly pics, and then I also did weekly weigh-ins as well. So on the 30th of June, the 30th of June, the day before I started, I was 77.6 kilos. My arms were 30 centimeters, my waist was 102 centimeters, and my thigh was 59 centimeters. If I put the video in and you watch me record, like measuring myself, like it's not in any way professional, like it's messy, but it doesn't matter, because if they're messy both times, it works out around the same. So these figures might not be 100% accurate, but like they're close enough. So that was where I started off. So on the 13th of September, which was the day I was due to finish, bear in mind, you'll hear later, I pigged out on the 11th and the 12th. So I probably was a little bit more bloated as well on the 13th. But on the 13th, I was 73.8 kilos. So I had lost 4 kilos in the 2.5 months. That is about, I was just double. So I'm going to say, sorry, 4 kilos? 4 kilos, about 8 pounds ish. Probably a bit more than that. So maybe like closer to like 9-ish pounds. My arm went from 30 centimeters to 28 centimeters. My waist went from 102 to 96. And my thigh went from 59 to 57. So I actually could not really see the difference in the pictures at all. But I was really happy with the measurements there. I was just like, wow, because I wasn't expecting really to have any. And when I measured myself and wrote them down, and then I compared it to the first, I was like, oh my goodness, like to go from 102 to 96 in the waist, I don't know if that's good or bad, but to me I was like, it's in the right direction. So bearing in mind also, I probably would have been losing weight anyway because I was postpartum, and you know, you kind of like lose some of the baby weight, so it's not all necessarily because of 75 soft, but it's still, that's the difference I had from starting to finishing. Oh, I also have written here that the lowest that I got in the 75 days was 71.7. So I had gone up to 73.8 by the end, but I had actually gotten down to 71.7. So that would have been a good 6 kilos from 77.6 to 71.7. And that is due to the diet, because I did, the lowest was when I was doing carnivore. So by the end of 6 weeks of carnivore, strict carnivore, I got down to 71.7. Then I started reintroducing some foods. Obviously that bumped me up, and then I ended up gaining another 2 kilos. But I did actually lose additional weight. So yeah, I was like really happy with those results. Okay, so let's get on to the diet. Okay, so the carnivore diet, I recorded all of the videos of my journey on that, both on the diet and then also when I started reintroducing things. There's a playlist there, so if you're interested at all in learning about my journey on carnivore, I talk about like what I eat in a day, I talk about how much does it actually cost us, I talk about having a toddler and a newborn doing the carnivore, like us doing the carnivore, on having them and seeing any observations, which is my favorite video. And then I talk about like when I start reintroducing things as well, but they're good videos there if you're interested in doing them. And then I don't think I really talked about sorry, I need to get some water. Okay, I'm all watered up. Okay, so 6 weeks of carnivore, then I can't remember exactly the thing, but I reintroduced like dairy, or I reintroduced berries or I reintroduced vegetables. At one point I tried to do Andrew Huberman's diet because I did realize that dairy just did not agree with me. There was no like specific pain or anything, but I definitely just felt sluggish and bloated and stuff like that. So I think, I can't even fully remember, I have a video on it, but I think Andrew Huberman's is basically carnivore with veg and fruit, but no dairy, I believe. I can't remember, something along those lines. And honestly, the best that I had, that I felt, was when I was just on pure carnivore. Actually, funny, like when I was trying to reintroduce vegetables, I found it really difficult to reintroduce them. Like I just found it really I just found that I was eating carnivore basically, and I had to like force myself. Like I think I had to do Andrew Huberman's 2 weeks, because the first week I was like, I'm not giving this a fair shake, like I haven't actually had any veg. So anyways, I did that, and then I got to the 11th of September and I was like feeling sick, and I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with challenges. I think I was just like tired and worn out. I have been doing challenges all year. If you think about it, January 1st is when I started 75 Hard. Doing challenges basically all year. It's the 11th of September. I have 2 days left. I think it was like a Wednesday. I was due to finish on the Friday. I was like, I'm done. I'm finished. Like, get me out of here. So I went to a place called Eddie Rockets. It's like a diner, and I got a huge like loaded hot dog, I got a burger, I got loaded chips, I got a milkshake, I got a brownie sundae. I just got everything, and like I regretted nothing. And I just literally ate whatever I wanted, similar to that, for 2 weeks until October 1st. So I just like went buck wild on the food after carnivore and regretted nothing. I think I just needed that space after the year that I had. But yeah, it was a good journey, and I'm currently back on carnivore. So that's where we are at the moment. But what I will say is like that was the best of all the diets, of like reintroducing everything. I'm currently on strict carnivore, no dairy, no coffee, no nothing. But I think in the new year, there's this guy Eddie Abreu, I think that's how he pronounces his name. He's on Instagram. He's a guy in the UK, and he goes around talking about food, and he's like, wake the fuck up is like his tagline. He's really, really good. But he's like predominantly carnivore, but he will say like have like healthy fats such as olives or avocado and stuff like that. So I think in the new year I might try follow like his plan, because it'd be nice to just have like other flavors and like maybe have some seasonings in as well. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's basically what happened with the diet. Okay, so let's just go before we finish up here, because we're talking for almost half an hour. Week to week, kind of, not week to week, but like kind of like standout things that happened throughout the 75 days. So on day 1, which is really funny, at this time my 2 kids kind of guaranteed a nap at like 10 a.m. So I'd put the toddler down to bed. She's 2 years old. She'd have a nap for a good hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, and then my baby was just sleeping all the time. So I was able to have like a guaranteed period of time at 10 a.m. every day. It's not the same anymore. But the very first day I read my 10 pages, and then I went to start my yoga, and that was a mistake, because by the time I got to the yoga, I was doing postnatal yoga in my room, my toddler woke up or my baby started crying or something like that. So I learned very fast. The workout is obviously the biggest time commitment, and it's something that you really need to be able to focus on. So I learned very fast, when you can, do the workout first and then you can read after. And if I had to like breastfeed while I was reading, I could do that, but I can't do my yoga and breastfeed at the same time. There are some postnatal baby yoga classes as well, so if she was awake I would try to do them, or like try to figure out a way around it, but it wasn't ideal. Unfortunately as well, when I was doing prenatal yoga on 75 Hard, there was a lot that were 45 minutes long, so that was perfect. The postnatal ones I could find were all like 20 minutes. I don't know if it's because, or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. I don't know if it's because like someone has a baby so they don't have time to commit to doing yoga, but I found that very difficult because I'd have to do like 2 or 3 different workouts or yoga videos just to get the 45 minutes in. And the problem with that is like a lot of it is like really kind of like jumpy, or like if you have a 45-minute flow, it flows, whereas if you're doing a 20-minute, a 15-minute and a 10-minute video, it's just very kind of like broken up and distorted, and sometimes you might be doing the same stretch multiple times and different instructors, and it just wasn't as good. So that's the one thing that was unfortunate. But I do have like a postnatal yoga playlist that I will link under this video. I'll also link the carnivore playlist under this video. So that's the yoga basically. Okay, week 2. So I have written down here that for yoga, like I'm noticing that I'm doing new like poses that I didn't do in the prenatal, which makes sense. So prior to doing 75 hard, I was not a yoga person at all. Like I was just very uncomfortable doing yoga. Like I remember going to a yoga class in China. We used to live in China, and just kind of like giggling and stuff because I just felt so uncomfortable. The state of me when I started 75 hard in January and doing yoga, it was just like atrocious. So it's definitely gotten a lot better. But it was interesting. I just found that like with the postnatal yoga, now that I wasn't pregnant with a huge belly, there was just different poses, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So it kind of like spiced it up a little bit. Then I have like just balancing the workout with the 2 kids. Like, you know, preparation is key, and it really, really is, for anyone who knows, like a newborn and a toddler. Actually, she wasn't even 2 at this stage. So she was like a 1-year-old. It was a bit wild. And then the yoga videos are shorter, as I said. So really having to balance that. Sometimes I did walks. So as the weeks went on, I don't know if I have it written down here, but like I started bringing like my toddler to gymnastics or to the library. So I would use those as opportunities to walk to these places, and then walk home, or go walk to these places and then do a walk before walking home. I started at one point, exercise wise, I started a postnatal Pilates class, but I would walk to the Pilates class, do the class, because it was very, very low in intensity. I was doing higher intensity at home with my yoga classes, and then I would walk home. And also coming up to the end of 75 soft, I started doing couch to 5k. So that was 3 times a week. I'd be doing like runs. So the runs might end up being like 20 minutes, and then I would finish off with another 25-minute walk, or whatever way it calculated out. But yeah, the workouts definitely started increasing, but again, I had to be really, really mindful of the kiddies, my husband's working, and the weather and all this sort of stuff. But I tried to do yoga if it was indoors, or either a walk or a run if it was outdoors. And I really enjoy the fact that in 75 soft you do get a rest day. I definitely did take my rest day every week, and then also that I didn't have to do one outside, that I could just do one inside. So it's a lot easier postnatal for sure than doing 75 hard. Okay, let's move on to week 4. I was really enjoying 75 soft. It was enjoyable. I was enjoying the daily activity. I was enjoying the rest day. At this point, I actually did my first workout, like actual workout. So it was like a postnatal workout. So that was interesting, and I was nervous about that, honestly, because all for 75 hard, I was just doing like prenatal yoga and walks. So to do like an actual workout, like I was kind of scared of doing that, but I did it. Was still on carnivore at this point. I was about a third of the way through the whole challenge with no issues, and then I was definitely drinking more than 1 gallon of like plain water per day. So I was drinking more than that. Like I drink water no problem, and I was also on top of that drinking hot water, which would just be plain water, and then also sparkling water. So you can have sparkling water on carnivore because it's just carbonated water, there's nothing else in it, and I wouldn't count that as my water intake. So I would drink just like plain cold water, at least 4 liters, and then on top of that would be my sparkling water, my hot water, all that sort of stuff. So that was fine. Excuse me. week 6, so 2 weeks later. So at this point I'm really starting to appreciate the reading. I had up to this point been finding it boring. So we're talking about The Power of Small. As I said, didn't really vibe with me or whatever. I'm working through books that have been on my mind for years. 75 Soft, I'm just going to read this. 75 Soft is an excuse to take them off, and have the next 2 books picked out. So that would have been The Secret and Asking It Is Given. So I guess at this point I must have been reading 75 Hard. Thinking I should be going harder with my exercise. So I thought maybe I was coasting it a little bit, but bear in mind this is week 6, so I'm only 13 weeks postpartum here, and I'll be starting Couch to 5k tomorrow, so week 7. So I started Couch to 5k. I was about 13 weeks postpartum when I started that, and week 7 into 75 Soft. So week 8, this is where things started to go wrong. So I was quite close to the end when things started getting a bit iffy. So week 8, I missed a workout. I think I just forgot about it, honestly, and I think I had already done my rest day that week. And the next day I woke up and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't do my yoga last night, so I missed a workout. And I also that week missed a Duolingo, and I could not believe that I had done this. So I literally went onto Duolingo, and it was like, oh, you have to use your freeze. You can freeze your streak or something so you don't lose your number of days. And I was like, how is it possible that I forgot to do Duolingo? I don't know, but I did. And this is when I started introducing, so the diet started changing now as well. So I introduced dairy and coffee. The next week, week 9, I introduced fruit, chocolate and peanuts. It was meant to be dark chocolate, but there was a little bit of non-dark chocolate also added in. I really wanted to cheat this week, so that's interesting. Just as I start introducing foods, sugary foods like the dairy and the chocolate and the fruit, my cravings start coming back, so that's interesting. But I'm glad that I was on 75 Soft to have mid-September as a point to work towards. So my cravings were kicking in, but because I was on the challenge, I was like, no, I have just until mid-September and then I can have whatever I want. So it kept me on course, having the accountability there of doing the challenge, which is what I will really say I enjoy about doing these challenges and just having them as a way of life. It's like having them there incentivizes you not to do things that you would just do willy-nilly without thinking. And then I say here, I'm really enjoying my book, which is the Abraham Hicks book. So I'm really enjoying that book at this point. And then this is the last week. I quit with 2 days left. I felt sick and really bad, as I said, and I wanted ice cream and I wanted comfort food, and I was just done with it. I regret nothing is what I have written here. I also quit Couch to 5k after 4 weeks. So I did 4 full weeks of it. It was 4 out of 6 weeks. So it was a 6 weeks challenge because I was sick, and basically I find that really restrictive because you have to do it Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. So if you don't start it that week on the Tuesday, then you have to wait a whole next week until you can start the challenge. And then what happened was I got sick, so I couldn't do it on the Tuesday, and then I felt bad that I couldn't do it on Tuesday, and I was like, okay, well maybe I'll do like Wednesday, Friday, Sunday or something like that, just like change it up. This is for week 5. And then I was still sick on the Wednesday, and then I got to Thursday and I started to feel better, and I was like, yeah, but I can't ram the 3 trainings now into Thursday and then Saturday, Sunday or something. It defeats the whole premise of the program, which is to have these rest days in between. So I was like, no, do you know what, I was done with it at that point. I was like, I'm done. And I again regret nothing. I did what I did. I don't like running, so but I do find that is a downside of doing Couch to 5k, is that it's really restrictive time wise. And I just felt at that point that I needed a break from challenges. So that was my journey with 75 Soft. I am currently doing it again. We are now mid-October. We started it, no, sorry, we're coming up to the end of October. We started it the 1st of October, back on carnivore, back reading, back doing all of the things. I will do a video to let you know how I got on. My husband is doing it this time for the first time ever, so he has watched me doing 75 hard, he's watched me doing 75 soft, and he is now doing it as well, and he's really enjoying the reading aspect of it. And yeah, it's a really nice way just to finish off the year. We will be finishing mid-December, just after his birthday, and then we will have 2-3 weeks in the run up to like Christmas and stuff to just eat whatever we want and just to enjoy ourselves, and then we'll see what we do in the new year. But I would definitely recommend doing 75 soft, if not 75 hard, but definitely 75 soft. I just feel like it's a really good way to get yourself moving, physically obviously, but then just like in life in general. Like, as I said, I have created and done so many things this year, and I genuinely don't believe I would have done it if I didn't have that like daily like ingestion of like 4 liters of water, and just like movement and mindset shifts from reading all these books, even if I don't remember what's in them. And you know, like the weight is like whatever, like obviously you feel better if you're losing weight and you feel proud of yourself when you see the results and stuff like that, but like I've been writing for an online magazine, an article every month. I've written 2 chapters for 2 different books, all about motherhood and my experience so far, and I've got a 3rd one coming up next year, so both of those books will be published by the end of the year. I've created my own pregnancy journal, which is in the final stages of like being created and designed, and I cannot wait to hold my own journal in my hands. I'm so excited. So I still have work to do in terms of like websites and all that sort of stuff, but like this on top of everything else that I've been doing this year, I just feel like it's such a good way to get you into a good mindset. You might do it and not experience any of that sort of stuff, but I do believe anyone who has done 75 hard and has really done it will say it's changed their life in one way or another. Even just my perspective of being outdoors, I was just not an outdoor person, and now I walk everywhere. You know, it's just the experiences that I've had with my kids, because I'm like, oh no, we have to get out and we have to do things, or I have to be more active and moving more and stuff like that. I just feel like it's been like a really, really positive experience in my life, and I'm so glad that my husband is doing it now, because again, I just think it's like a really nice excuse to read a book and drink some water and go for a walk or do some yoga or do whatever kind of workout it is that you want to do. I do not kill myself with workouts. I'm still postpartum. I've got a 5-month-old, but I'm still like, I just believe that until you're like a year, your body is still recovering and everything, but that doesn't mean that you have to be sedentary and do nothing. You know, and yeah. So would recommend. Thank you if you watched this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will definitely do another video on my second experience of doing 75 soft, and I regret nothing. I don't regret quitting Couch to 5k. I don't regret quitting a couple of days early. I am sad that I missed a workout and I missed 1 day of doing Duolingo, but because of my streak freeze, I was able to still get 75 day streak badge. And I will have a look at if I have pictures or videos from throughout the period, and if I do, I'll stick them on here to the end of this video. But thank you so much for watching. If you think of doing 75 soft yourself, or if you have done it, I'd love to hear about your experience or your thoughts of doing it or not doing it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Okay, so I'm going to attempt to measure myself. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I hope even just having it on video means when I go to measure myself in the future, I think I'll only measure myself at the beginning and the end, but I'll weigh myself every week, I think. But yeah, hopefully just having this on video means that when I go to measure myself in 75 days, I'll be able to do in or around the same areas again. But yeah, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to do my arm. How will I know where I did it? Okay, from where my triceps are the biggest. So funny, I just got this piece of tape when my daughter was born. How do I do this? Okay, what's a smart way to do this by myself? Let me see. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm going to say that that is 30 30 centimeters on the dot. Okay, so 30 centimeters for my triceps. Now, where am I going to do? I'm going to do my biggest point. So, let me see. Where can I measure it from? So maybe that the tape is just below this little dude here. Okay, let's go. I have a mirror behind the camera, so I'm looking at that. So hold on. The joys of trying to do this with a newborn and a toddler. Okay, so it's 26. So 26 plus 76 is 102 centimeters. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do the maths after this. I'll rewatch this and do the maths. Okay, so I've got my arm, I've got my stomach area, and I suppose I'll just do my thigh. I don't think I need to do like my calf or anything. So I'll move you down here. Where do I do this from? Maybe it's easier to do this one because I've got. Actually, do these? Oh, I'm just going to assume that they're uniform. Okay, so where is a good one to do it from? Okay, I'll do it from just below. This is for future Brona. Just below this one here. Okay, what's the easiest way for me to do this? No. And 59. 59. So there are my measurements. It is the day before 75 hard. I'm going to be doing my measuring with 75 soft. I'm going to be doing my measurement again the day after 75 soft finishes. My weigh-ins I'm going to do, I always will be doing them in the morning, after a pee and before I've had any liquid or food or anything. So I just want it to be uniform so that it's not a case I'm doing some in the morning, some in the evening, some before meals, some after meals, all that sort of stuff. So that's it. So let's see how we get on.
Friday 13th of September. I am coming to the end of 75 soft, or I have come to the end of 75 soft. Full disclosure, today was meant to be my very last day, so technically tomorrow would be my first day without the challenge. But this week I just got burnout of doing challenges. I've been doing challenges since January 1st of this year, so 9.5 months on top of being pregnant and also delivering a baby. Open the door in 1 minute, okay? And this week I also got sick, and it was coming to the end of the 75 days, and I was like, you know what, I didn't exercise for the last few days because I've been sick, but I kept up the water and the pages and all the things, but last night I was so tired and sick and just not feeling great, and I was like, you know what, I'm done with the diet as well. So we went out, we got food. I got hot dogs, I got chips, I got milkshakes, I got burn me sundaes, I got all the things. So I'm going to, it was a bit foolish in the sense that I need to weigh myself now and measure myself to compare to where I started, but I don't care other than that. So whatever this weight is, it's probably a little bit inflated because of what I did last night. My body's not used to it. I'm going to weigh myself now, and then I'm going to try to measure myself, because I did measure myself at the very beginning of 75 soft, and see what the difference is. So I started off this challenge at 77 point, let me check. Yeah, I started off this challenge at 77.6, and I was 7 weeks postpartum. I now have a 4-month-old, so 77.6. So bearing in mind that I had a big splurge last night, food wise, and I haven't exercised this week, let's see what I currently am. 73.8. So if I just take that at face value, that's what I currently am, that is a good 4 kilo drop from where I started. 4 kilos is 8, 9, 10 pounds ish. I tend to just double it, but I think it's slightly more than double, so let's say it's 8 pound drop. I'll take it, you know. The time has gone pretty fast. I'm going to do a video just kind of going over my journey with 75 soft, what I got from it. But I started this July 1st, it's now September 13th, and technically I didn't complete it, but I really don't care. I've completed 75 hard, and I've done a lot of things, and I'm more than happy with not completing it right now. I just need a break from doing challenges and just to live my life for a little while. So yeah, I'm going to soon try to do my measurements and see what's changed there, and I will do a video later on talking about just the challenge as a whole and how it went. But yeah, 4 kilo drop in 2.5 months. I'll take it. Okay, see you later. Oh my goodness, I'm actually shooketh. So I just did my measurements there. I'll put in like just a really hyperlapse video of me doing it. You will recall in my first video of carnivore, I believe it was, I recorded in full me doing my measurements. So I have that there, you can go back and watch it, and I explain exactly where it is that I do the recordings or the measurements from. So I watched that again to make sure that I got the exact same spots. And then I was doing it, I never actually checked what the previous numbers were, I was just checking where to do them. But I just did it there, and then I just went and checked the previous measurements, and in my arms they were 30 centimeters, they're now 28 centimeters. My waist was 102 centimeters, it's now 96 centimeters. And then my thighs were 59 and they're now 57. So obviously, like, it's not absolutely exact. It wouldn't have been absolutely exact the first time or the second time, so I'm just taking them at face value. But it's honestly, I have no idea. Is that good? Is it bad? It's indifferent. All I know is it's different than what it was, and it's better than what it was. So 2 centimeters off my arms, 2 centimeters off my thigh, and 6 centimeters off my waist. So I'm pretty happy with that. And actually, when I think about it, like, the pictures, I don't see much of a difference. I'll show you before and after. My weight, it's 4 kilos. Yeah, it's 4 kilos, but like maybe I would have liked to have seen a bit more, honestly. But hold on. And maybe the measurements aren't that great. I honestly don't know, but I just have to bear in mind, like, they're all progress. They're all better than what they were. And I'm really happy with that, and I'm really excited to go down and have like a bowl of porridge with peanut butter. I haven't, like, yeah, doesn't matter, I'm not going to talk about diet right now, but and some berries, and I'm just really excited to not have rashers of eggs in the morning. So yeah, I just thought I'd share my measurements there. I'm absolutely delighted just to see a difference. Honestly, I thought I wouldn't, but oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. At the start of this, I was still in my maternity wear. I was 7 weeks postpartum. Since then, I've got into like my maternity clothes. I have fitted into like a gym bottoms that like I've never fitted into before. Yeah, there are a lot of pros, so I'll talk more about all of those like results that I've seen, but I'm very happy to see some difference in the 3 different areas there of my measurement. See you later.